Welcome to Caleb's Basketball Pod. Today we're going to break down the NBA Christmas schedule. As we draw closer and closer to the season, we're going to start doing some team previews now that we know the schedules and we can give a little bit more of a breakdown. Before we jump into our breaking down of the Christmas games, which is a special episode in of itself because it should be. Those are some special games. NBA's always owned Christmas, in my opinion, for a sport on the holiday. And I think it's really cool that NBA's they're up in their game with these Christmas games. And we'll answer some questions too that a lot of fans have. Before we do that, I want to break down why I've been away for the most part. We've only had like one episode in the last 2 weeks. I believe it was last episode where I said a lot's been going on for me and been going from here to there, and I never really explained anything. What happened was a couple years ago, which I've spoke on this podcast before, I had torn my ACL. During that time, for me, everything just got, I don't want to say, I think the best way to describe it is everything felt dark. You look at something and instead of that like light, that joy that comes with it, you see that dark, you see the darkness, you see the like, it's not light anymore. It's that one step brought you joy is now like there's a dark cloud over it because of situation A or B or something like that. And anyway, I talked about this before, just how that was the most difficult time for me, just personally. Not able to do anything. I'm someone that likes stay on the go and move and do stuff, and not really be pinned down. And I'm not really someone that likes asking for help, and in that situation, that's all you can really do. So anyway, fast forward to recovering from that. We're good, we're back, we're playing basketball again. Trying to figure everything out. Hey, what's going on, what goes here, what goes there, all of that stuff. A few weeks back, early July, landed a little awkwardly on that knee on one of the, in which you can't go back and change it, but one of the dumbest plays. I had a rebound and I mistimed my jump a bit and I was a little bit away from the rebound, so I stepped that leg out along with outreaching my hand to try and get it. I got it. I just felt movement in that knee. At that point, I just finished that game and I was done. Didn't want to play anymore because something just felt off after that. Do I know? And we'll get to it. But anyway, the next day there would be pain in my kneecap and my quad, this and that. I would be going to the doctor. They would say, try physical therapy. I would try physical therapy. Not much of a change, a little bit. Then I would finally get the MRI after weeks of waiting. And they would say that when they repaired my ACL, they put a graft in there. From your quadricep, they take a piece of that muscle, they make a graft, they put it in to replace that ACL. On the MRI, it would say that that graft has failed. So a lot going on, and especially since last Friday when I found that out, a lot going on in my head and not really sure what's next, not really sure what's going on, not really sure what normal is. Trying so hard to get back to feeling normal, but at that point, what is feeling normal with this not being a normal situation? There's people out there, don't get me wrong, that don't have an ACL, and that's what I'm kind of at, in that right knee. But for someone who likes staying active and for the longest time held this fantasy that, hey, you can go somewhere, you can play in some type of pro or semi-pro league, and to have that decided for you, it's tough, and it's been really difficult to deal with, and the last few days have been crazy for me, and try and break it down in my head, and also just try and get used to waking up with the fact of every day you wake up knowing that something's off. And even if it's not something huge to everyone else, but because I love playing basketball and I love being active and I love playing sports, you wake up every day and you know something's off. And that's tough for me, especially when I try to do my best at everything, and I'm kind of like a perfectionist. I try to be the best at every little thing I do, whether it's this, that, or even how I talk to people or how I word things. I plan everything out to try and be so good at everything, and then to wake up and know that out of my control, you can't not like you're going to perfect anything, but you can't perfect this because now a part of you is imperfect. And it sounds dumb to say, but someone like me, that's really tough to deal with. And it's even tougher just, and you can't, but you think on what you could have done, what you could have changed, what you should have done different. And it's tough. And basketball's been such a huge part of my life. Like, most of my best friends outside of family is because I met them on a basketball court, or I met them some type of way with basketball. And then it's like you go up and you had your spot where you play basketball with, and the idea from the doctor is, if that knee's stable, to just kind of go on without the ACL and not do surgery, because he doesn't want to do surgery again. So it's dealing with this and living with this for the rest of your life when you're not even 28 years old. It's a bit of adjustment, and especially mentally. And then also having to think about every time you step on the court, as explained by the physical therapist that I went to, there's more of a chance of injuring or doing something to that knee because there was not the ACL to keep it more stable. So you can build the muscle and you want to build the quad around it so it stays stable, but there's more of a risk of doing something to it because there's not that ACL to keep the stability in there. So it's a little tough. Also being a 6 foot unathletic white guy and knowing how people look at you anyway on the basketball court, and if people know that, hey, you don't have an ACL, now you look down upon even more. So it's been a lot to deal with, and I'm just letting you guys know that that's why there haven't been many pods in the last couple of weeks, but we're going to get back to it. And if you guys care, if I get some positive comments and you guys want to know how things go, I'll let you know in a few weeks when I figure out for sure what's going on. If not, this will be the last talk of it. But hey, I just wanted to keep you guys in touch because I appreciate you guys. I appreciate my subscribers because you guys are great. You guys watch these episodes and you want to get insight on basketball. And why? Because I love basketball. And that's what makes it even harder to be like, hey, you may not be able to do this at the level you were doing it at, or as much as you were doing it. And it's not your decision. And that's probably the toughest part of y'all, is it's like, when I was going to slow it down, I wanted to be the one that was like, hey, slow it down, not kind of be like, hey, slow it down. So it's stuff like that. But anyway, thank you guys for listening to me go on and on, I guess. But yeah, I appreciate you guys, and we're going to keep this podcast going strong. And let's get into our Christmas Day preview. We're going to go in the order of the games. So we start off with Cleveland, New York. The interesting stat on this, and this is a question that I hear a lot of people asking and talking about. Why are there only 2 Eastern Conference teams on the whole Christmas Day? Because much as I mentioned, Christmas is the marquee day for the NBA. A lot of marketing, a lot of ratings, a lot of this and that goes into marketing the NBA on that day. You want to put your best talent, and I'm not saying the Eastern Conference don't have your best talent, but I think at this point there's 2 or 3 teams that people look at and say could come out of the East. At max, I want to say 4, as where you have like maybe 7 or 8 realistic possibilities depending on records and where they stand and what their path is in the playoffs of teams that can come out of the West, and then the talent level. And it's not shot at the East, but it's the name level. It's for OGs, the veterans, so to speak, for LeBron James, for Kevin Durant, for Steph Curry's, the guys building their names now like Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, SGA, Nikola Jokic. And not to say the East don't have that, but I just think the light's always been shined brighter on the Western Conference. So at that point, I think that's the reason for a 1 Eastern Conference game. But if you're going to do 1 Eastern Conference game, what better than the 2 favorites in the Eastern Conference with injuries to Indiana and Boston? I believe your 2 favorites are Cleveland and New York. So it should be a really good game. It's in the Garden. We know it's a Christmas tradition, like pretty much all the time, no matter the Knicks' record. And now Knicks are going to be a good team, we all expect this year, but no matter their record, there's always a Christmas game in the Garden, and that's fun. That's like a Christmas tradition, as like you always have like Redskins, Cowboys games and stuff like that on Thanksgiving, and that's their tradition. And the NBA's tradition is always that game in the Garden, so it should be fun, should be a good one. The next game on the schedule, I believe, is OKC and San Antonio. So the champs against the up-and-coming San Antonio Spurs, De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama. This is going to be a good game. We saw what Victor Wembanyama did last season in New York. Speaking of the Knicks a little bit ago, he brought it. He showed up in the Garden on one of the biggest stages he could do with not being in the playoffs yet, and he showed up in the Garden and he played amazing on Christmas Day and nearly stole that game for the San Antonio Spurs. I think we're going to look at the same. I think he's going to show up and I believe it's in OKC. I think he's going to show up in the champ's house. And I think he's going to put on a show and possibly come away with a victory, because I think Victor Wembanyama is that guy and he's built for that stage. Now, on the other side, there's not much to say. It's your champs. We know how they're going to play. We know how good they're going to be. And we know SGA is going to be nearly unstoppable. That's just what OKC does. They wanted that Christmas game last season. They went out, won a championship, and now there he is, right in front of them. So it's going to be an interesting one. Our next game is Golden State and Dallas. And this, you get Steph against Clay. You get Cooper Flagg also playing. Jimmy Butler playing. You get Anthony Davis. You get Draymond Green. This should be a good one. Very entertaining. You always have that story of Clay against Golden State. That's fun. And Golden State and Dallas had some really good games last season. I don't expect and don't believe we will see Kyrie. I don't think he'll be close at that point. I still think with the talent around, and we're looking at probably Jonathan Kuminga also staying in Golden State. I think with the talent around, I think it's going to be a really fun and interesting matchup between probably two of the higher seeded Western Conference teams at this point in the season too. Next up, you have a battle of the OGs. You have Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets against LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. And then besides that, you also have Thompson, Tara Eason, Jabari Smith, Fred VanVleet, guys like that for Houston. And we all know for LA, you have Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and I mean, just a really good star-studded matchup. And in all actuality, this could actually steal the show on Christmas Day. Could be one of the last times we see KD and LeBron go at it, and it's on Christmas Day. We've seen them go at it before on Christmas Day. I think that's going to be a really fun, really good, interesting matchup. Then our last game, it should be interesting too. We have Denver and Minnesota. I think this is interesting. I want to see. It's odd because at different points in the season, we wonder what Anthony Edwards we're going to get. So if we get that go and show out Anthony Edwards, this matchup's going to be fun. If we get the inconsistent Anthony Edwards, this game may go way towards Denver's way, which does make me wonder why it's a Christmas game. But if we look at the record, every time Minnesota and Denver plays, both sides show up, and we have some good matchups. We had a couple really good later in the season matchups between these two teams last season, where Jokic would put up historic numbers, Anthony Edwards would put up historic numbers. So I'm looking forward to this. We also have, besides Edwards, Jokic, you have Jamal Murray, you have Julius Randle, we have Cam Johnson now for Denver, we still have Michael Conley in Minnesota, Rudy Gobert. But I think it's going to be a fun matchup, and if I had to rate them by star power and excitement for the games, I think I would say number 1, Houston, LA. Number 2, that's tough. I think personally I would go OKC, San Antonio, because I think Victor Wembanyama is built for that stage. And I think you want to take your shot and you want to knock down the champs. Number 3, I would go Cleveland, New York. Number 4, Golden State, Dallas. And last, I would go Denver, Minnesota. But I think we have a really good Christmas Day lineup. I just want to say again, thank you guys for the patience. Thank you for tuning in. And we're firing back up and we're about to get this thing jumping and going. And team previews are coming up very soon. So stay tuned for that. And we're prepping for a really good NBA season, about 2 months away. And it's going to be a good one.